one of you just drop a reminder on your groups. We'll begin jaldi. It's a long PPT. We don't want to waste anybody's weekend. We'll start at 11:05 sharp, okay? Also, everyone, please turn on your cameras. I do not like talking to an empty screen. Cameras, everyone. I'm tired of saying this. It's not fun. Okay, I think we'll start at 11:05 sharp. Till then, let's do some chit chat. Can anybody tell me what do they think a business model is? Because this is business model 101.
Business model can be the idea of making the product in different manners. Like once you have sent a link for Discord, there were two types of business model. Where we do the research first, check the demand, and after that make the model or the product, or we make the product, then we check the availability and the reach in the market. So these were two kinds of business models which I got to discover from that article.
Fair enough. That is not exactly a business model. That's more so how you, that's like modes of doing research for whatever business model you choose to launch. So slightly different. I mean, not slightly, that's pretty different. So different concept altogether. Try to look at the words and think of what it might represent. Anybody else?
I think business model is, how do you generate revenue for a product? You might have a product which have a lot of users, but how do you generate revenue? How do you generate profit from that product? That system, I think, is the business model.
That's partially true because what you're talking about is revenue model. You're just talking about how the company creates profit. But there will be no profit unless there is some business, there is value creation for the customer. So business model would have all of it involved,
Okay, I have one more try. Like in a business, how the business operates from top to bottom in an integrated way, in a planned way, procedural way, can be called as business model.
Fair.
Yeah, so it's basically how a business
And
works, right?
actually, when you talk about business models, we know that they are businesses which sells their products to other business models, right? To other businessmen. So that is a kind of a business model, and there are business which sells their products directly to their customers. So that's also another kind of business model. Actually, what I think is the business models which sells their products to other business are called B2B business models, as far I know.
Right. That makes sense. Although we wouldn't call it a business model, but honestly, it's a murky space because it is one way of doing business. What today we're going to do, it's 11:05, so I think we can get right into it. What today we're going to do is, we're going to take it a step further. Pehle, let's clear the basics. Do most of you here know what B2B, B2C is? Also, please turn on your cameras. This is annoying me.
Yes, B2B means business to business, and B2C means business to direct to the customers, which I sell the products directly to the customers.
And one more working space I discovered during the HALT price. It was B2B2C business. So that kind of model was being suggested by the judges to me. So I remember that.
Right. Um. So technically B2B to C जो बोल रहे हैं ना, at the end of the day it's B2B only, because I think what they would be saying is कि like तुमने सोचो शैम्पू बनाया and you sell it to some retailer, you sell it to Big Bazaar in bulk, and Big Bazaar sells it to consumers, but at the end of the day your customer to here becomes Big Bazaar only, no?
Nah, like
That
the
is
model was kind of, it's a kind of interface, so where both the vendors and the users or consumers can interact within. So basically, it's not that just the businesses are my target, even the consumers are. But yeah, there is a different wing or branch in that model.
right, but then that won't be B2B to C. That's just a marketplace. Again, today through the session, I think you'll gain more perspective on what is being said. But when you're starting is B2B, B2C, these are very elementary terms, right? कि B2B में बिजनेस को बेच रहे हो, किसी बिजनेस को अपना प्रोडक्ट या सर्विस जो भी बेच रहे हो, B2C में डायरेक्ट किसी कस्टमर को बेच रहे हो. Elementary, everybody understands, right? Today what we're going to do is we're going to see more breakdowns. So I'm going to go to the next slide now.
Okay. Okay.
Right, so today we're going to see more breakdowns. Now, before we start, I'll make this clear. The business models we discussed today are not mutually exclusive and exhaustive. What do I mean by that? Exhaustive nahi hai, because there are a multitude of business models. Whichever website or whichever, I don't know, thought leader you look at is going to give you a different list, right? And it's not mutually exclusive is because when you go into the other business models, you'll realize a business can be both SaaS and they can be usage or subscription based. They can be a SaaS company deploying a subscription model, right? So they fall under both models. Why we have listed 9 or 10 business models today is based on you get an idea about a certain mechanism that you can actually deploy directly somewhere, right? So it is more execution based, more so knowledge that is not just in the books, key you know the definitions, but you can actually deploy it somewhere and connect it to actual businesses. So keep in mind, this is not every business model on the what is business model. I think most people covered it. It's basically, it outlines how a company creates, delivers, and captures value. Basically, how you're giving value to your end consumer and how you're bringing value inside your own business. Basically, how you're earning money and how you're helping your consumer. It includes everything that has to do with the business. It includes the company's products or services, target market, revenue streams, operational structure, all of it. Now, does everybody understand what a target market is? Can somebody just tell me what a target market is?
I think it's the market where people are willing to buy your product.
Right. But when you decide a target market, it's at the starting of your business. Back then, you don't know who is willing to buy your product. Target market is somebody who just want to sell your product. Right?
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay. So yeah, that is what business model is. It's basically everything that has to do with a business. Go to the next slide. But now the question is, why should you learn about business models? The first one is pretty obvious. You might want to build your own business, so you'd want to know how to use a business model, how to pick the best one for you. But apart from that, I don't think everybody in the room here wants to start a business outright right now. So how else can you use a business model? How many people here are product enthusiasts? How many people want to get into product management? Great. Okay. Anybody else?
This broader enthusiast with product making.
Yes.
Okay. So,
Basically,
Here
what
we
to
are here we are talking about physical products, right?
no, any sort of a product.
Okay,
Digital
it,
product.
it can be digital products also, right?
Yes.
Yes, then I'm interested.
Okay, you hate physical products?
I think there's so much more tension into it. Actually, when we are selling digital products, we can get help from other people's also. Like people are
Right.
using influencers these days, getting
Mm-hmm.
help from the influencers and others.
Hmm. Interesting take. Okay, when I said who are interested in product, I mostly meant who are interested in product management roles at companies, startups, whatever. So, if you're a product manager, whether you're expected to, advance on whatever the company has already created, or if you're at an early stage company, you might be expected to do new things. You would have to know what a business model is, otherwise you cannot proceed. On what basis, on what metrics do you get better? Because as you would find out later into the ppt, uh, usually business में what do we consider as success? कि product ज़्यादा बिक रहा है नहीं बिक रहा है, ज़्यादा लोग खरीद रहे हैं नहीं खरीद रहे हैं. But based on the business model, your metrics will drastically change. For example, Shomrata is going to talk about enterprise business model, right? In enterprise business models, you're selling very big products. Airlines are very good example of this. When you're selling very big products, you will sell less products. So if an airlines is doing badly and they have taken you on their taken you on as a product analyst, and they ask you why is the airlines doing badly, and you answer ki arey aur becho, then there are maybe only 15-20 companies in the world that can buy it, that can buy an aeroplane. So then that's not the right solution. For that, you need to know what a business model is and what metrics to optimize on. Right. Who here is interested in consulting? Geetan is interested in both product and consulting.
I don't know. I need to explore, I guess.
Fair enough. Makes sense. You're in your first year, of course. Anybody here interested in consulting? Right. So when you're interested in consulting, what's the first advice you get? Do like case studies, do case prep, do case comps. How do you get good at these case comps? If you deploy very fundamental, like surface level stuff की like ये थोड़ा सा कर दो, ये नया strategy कर दो, then everybody is doing that. If you want to get really good at cases, and if you want to become the kind of consultant that can actually solve problems, you need to know business models. You need to know which metrics to look for. So for consultants also, business model is a big thing, although it is very rarely talked about, which is why I think we don't have a lot of good consultants. And lastly, be an educated investor. I think a lot of people here already know I love VC. So to be a good VC, you have to know how business models work. Otherwise, how can you invest in companies? Do any of you here know who Vinod Khosla is?
Sun Microsystems,
Yes, Sun Microsystems. So Vinod Khosla is Khosla Ventures, and Vinod Khosla is this very famous statement कि 90% of VCs, by the way, for anybody who does not know what a VC is basically, in the most elemental term, fund startups. But Vinod Khosla says that 90% of VCs add no value to a company, 70% of them add negative value to a company. And this basically mostly ends up happening because VCs don't understand how startups work. If you want to become a good investor in life, you have to understand how startups work, and you have to understand how their basic business models work. Right. I think by this point, everybody should be convinced why they should listen to the rest of it. So we will move on to the next thing. Yep. Let's jump in. SaaS. SaaS is very basic. So I think I'll put this to the audience. Tell me what SaaS is. Do not look at this. If you just copy this, I'm not going to take that as an answer. What do you think SaaS is?
Any software product that solves a problem.
Okay. That's actually not a bad answer. That's a really simplistic but right answer. And like
I
that.
feel like it's one of the things which makes some of the higher level things easier for the consumers to use. For example, one-page website creators and stuff like that. Maybe like something like Linktree, maybe Koji, which is now bought by Linktree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, make sense? That is basically what software as a service is. Basically, software as a service is, if you're starting a startup right now in your career, you should be thinking about two things. First of them is SaaS. The second we'll get to. I like that one better. But first of the two that you should consider to start a startup strongly is SaaS. Why is that? Because SaaS may you create basically a product once, like you create a framework once, and after that, all you have to really do is maintenance or upgrades. You are creating a software that can help a bunch of people, help a bunch of companies. Mostly the software products that get really successful are B2B, because software may still, I mean, from Indian consumers, righty, yes. But Indian consumers, I think you guys would know that nobody likes paying, right? So in India, people don't pay for software until and unless it's a business, and a business can generate profit by using that software. So most successful SaaS companies in India are definitely B2B. But even if you look at it from an international perspective, having a B2B SaaS company usually is a lot more profitable than having a B2C SaaS company. Not that it cannot be done. But yeah, you create a software, you mostly upgrade it and maintain it. As far as key features are concerned, all the benefits of recurring revenue. So, does anybody here understand the term recurring revenue?
When a
Recurring means
customers
repeating.
coming back, something like that, multiple
I
times.
couldn't catch you. Can you please repeat?
When a customers coming back multiple times to buy the product, when something like a subscription model only.
Yes. Very fundamental, but completely right. Anybody else wants to add anything?
Recurring means repeating. So repeating revenue in this sense.
Yes. Again, very fundamental. I like this. You guys have first principle thinking. So why recurring revenue? SaaS में क्या होता है? Because एक ही product है, एक ही उस पे बस maintenance घुमाना है, थोड़ा बहुत बीच बीच में upgrade कर दो और उस पे subscription model लगा दो. So you get that recurring revenue. And usually recurring revenue is preferred by all. It's preferred by the business owner. It's preferred by whoever is investing in them. And why is that? Why do you think recurring revenue is preferred by everyone as opposed to one-time revenue?
Recurring.
Because the
I
initial
guess it is
amount,
more stable than one-time revenue. It has consistent revenue.
Yes. Yes.
no, I think that initially the customer has to pay less, so there are more chances of the customers paying the initial amount and then sticking to it. So, and also there's a continuous, I mean, long-term source of revenue for the company.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Usually, we don't talk about the fact that in subscription models, places where there's recurring revenue, usually most businesses have small ticket wo, but it is true. It's easier to get money from people when you're not asking for a lot of it. So, recurring revenue, as Shubham said, is mostly preferred because it's stable. You will get money every month in a roll. Ek bar, if you acquire a customer, unless you done something like horribly bad to them, or there is a much better alternative on the market, once they start paying, they will keep on paying. So you are set. Whereas in one-time business models, like one-time pay models, you have to keep on impressing the customer again and again. Ki do paise, do paise, do paise. So, which is why SaaS provides a great opportunity to have recurring revenue. Can have non-recurring revenue also. There are multiple businesses with non-recurring also, but doesn't include ARR, MRR. Anybody here knows what ARR, MRR is?
Annual recurring revenue and monthly recurring revenue.
Great, amazing. I think self-explanatory. Recur हो रहा है annual payments पे, MRR is monthly recurring revenue, recur हो रहा है monthly payments पे, right? Makes sense? Usually sold to businesses, ideally on annual contracts. We talked about it, B2B, just people want to pay more. Especially in India, nobody wants to pay for anything. So paying for SaaS, so we consider ki some cheat code must be there. We will not pay for it. So usually sold to businesses because that's the way to make money. Growth can be driven by direct sales and or self-serve acquisition channels. I mean, you can directly reach out to customers or create acquisition channels where there is whether that's through ads or whatnot. Any questions so far about SaaS? Okay, I will assume none. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah, these are some of your SaaS companies: Adobe, Zoom, Zoho, HackerRank. They're selling software and people are buying it. Can we go to the next slide? Marketplaces. Acha. Can you guys tell me? Acha, marketplaces here we are mostly talking about digital marketplaces. Okay? We are not talking about physical marketplaces. So does anybody know who pioneered the digital marketplace? Does not have to be the first person who started it, but the first company that really made it big.
Amazon.
It's not the first one, but it was the biggest competitor of the first one. It is what killed the first one.
Alibaba.
Is it eBay?
eBay.
No, Alibaba is a great
eBay.
example, but it's not.
Is it eBay?
eBay, yeah.
Yes, eBay. eBay is what made marketplaces big. Has anybody here ever used eBay? I mean, you've seen eBay, I assume, but
I had pretty bad
The
experience with
Chinese,
eBay.
the Chinese
I was
audience
very
should use
interested.
that.
you've used eBay. What did you buy from eBay?
So basically, I think we had a phone called the Galaxy Note 2. This was like, I guess, back in 2014, and my dad ordered a cover for that phone through eBay.
Ooh, nice. I have actually
Yeah,
never.
the service was pretty bad, by the way, so we just stopped using it. But now, yeah, eBay is, I think, is a great marketplace for secondhand users, and you can sell a lot of things. For example, there are a lot of things selling on eBay, and it's the business model. I think is kind of complicated, but they've improved in the recent years.
Yes. eBay is what pioneered the marketplace model. Again, marketplace model, super simple. It just connects vendors and sellers digitally, right? Somebody wants to sell, and this worked way better when internet was a new thing. Because imagine back when internet was new thing, not everybody could create websites. It was a much bigger hassle to put up an online shop. If people here have heard about what Shopify is, Shopify makes it very easy to have web stores. Now, you might see a lot of these small internet jewelry stores or small internet clothing stores that have Shopify stores now. Back in the day, this was super hard to do. There was no mechanism for people to do it jaldi se. So places like eBay were great because anybody could sell anything there and anybody could buy anything there. Now, what eBay has become today is mostly a second-hand marketplace or a marketplace for bulk purchases because it's become much easier for people to have smaller websites. But Amazon took that model bigger. Amazon, actually started connecting bigger vendors to sellers, and that's what to some extent killed eBay over time. eBay, I think, at some point had tried to acquire Amazon also or something of that sort, but Amazon did not budge and they made a good decision. But yeah, that's what marketplace is. The marketplace operator does not hold any type of inventory but helps the buyers and sellers to facilitate a transaction. By the way, later when you go to examples, you'll see Amazon is not here. This is why Amazon is not here. What does this line mean? This line means the marketplace mein jiska bhi marketplace hai na, they do not own any of it. They're just the connecting point. So when you're on eBay, let's say you're buying sneakers from eBay, eBay will not have the sneakers. The vendor has sneakers. eBay just created a platform for the vendor to sell the sneaker to the buyer. Whereas Amazon now has its own products. Amazon is starting its own home care line. It has its own clothing line. So Amazon isn't completely marketplace anymore. But yeah, key features. Hard to get off the ground, chicken and egg problem. Why do you think it's a chicken and egg problem?
First off,
I believe that sometimes when to get users, you must have products, and to get products, to have companies list their products, you must have users.
Yes,
So I guess that's the problem.
absolutely. Yes, perfect. So, as Shubham said, chicken and egg problem है. सेलर कब आएगा जब बायर होगा, बायर कब आएगा जब सेलर होगा, तो दोनों को साथ में मनाना becomes an issue initially. Need to scale supply and demand in sync. basically means the same thing. कि supply of products and demand from consumers साथ में बढ़ाना पड़ता है, and that's hard. Network effects at scale drive exponential growth. Does anybody here know what network effects mean?
Network effect is like the effect where a lot of people are on one platform, so people do not leave that platform. For example, Instagram, Facebook. We mostly use Instagram, Facebook because all our friends are on Instagram and Facebook and not any other social media app because there is no one in those social media apps. So this is the
Yes.
network effect. Once you get into the network, it's hard to leave, and everybody wants to get in that network.
Yes, perfect. I'm really impressed by that, by the way. You're in your first year, you already know what network effects is. Amazing. Love that. So, again, just to reiterate for everybody, what network effects mean is network effects are deployed in those companies jahan pe the more number of users there are, the more value is created for the end user. Now, how is this applicable in a marketplace model? जितना ज्यादा सेलर होगा बायर के लिए उतना बेटर है, एंड अगेन जितना ज्यादा बायर होगा सेलर के लिए उतना बेटर है, राइट? द मोर द नंबर ऑफ यूजर्स इंक्रीजेस, द बेटर द बिजनेस गेट्स. नाउ व्हाई इज हैविंग नेटवर्क इफेक्ट सुपर बेनिफिशियल? Can anybody answer? And Shubham will not answer this. Based on this definition, can anybody tell me why network effects is great for a business?
Okay, so I have one case where I have recently seen so we all know EA Sports have ditched FIFA from their FIFA lineup game, but you see that all the leagues have still signed up with EA Sports. It's because network effects. Every single league and every single football club is signed to EA Sports, so it's better to sign up again with EA Sports instead of going to another vendor because most of the player base is still connected with EA Sports.
Right, exactly. And can you describe that? What is the consequence you're talking about in like one sentence?
Downfall, maybe?
Hmm?
You can say it's kind of like you'll not get that much of profits if you're connecting with another platform which doesn't have that much of end user value.
Switching becomes a lot more difficult for whoever is using, right? Om, were
Yeah.
you saying something? Did you want to add something?
Yeah, like in this networking effect problem, suppose we got to deviate someone or switch someone to another platform. The first problem we'll face is that uh, at that time we will not get that network effect there. So why would someone go and switch to another platform to use mine? This is the
Yes.
first thing. And once it is started, then it is very good for you because no one is about to leave you.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, Instagram. It's like in case of Twitter, we have seen Twitter was being tried to be replaced by a coup in India, but
Yes.
it is quite unsuccessful at this point.
Right. Basically, what network effects does is it makes switching a lot harder for whatever user you have. Even if somebody creates a bigger, like better product, no, because सबको ये use करे, they won't switch. For example, can somebody not build a platform that maybe looks better than Instagram or works better than Instagram? They can, but everybody is already on Instagram. To take everybody off and switch them to something else would be much more difficult than to just कुछ swiping का कभी bug आता है वो सह लेना. So it makes switching a lot harder, which is why once you start achieving network effect, you monopolize the market. Nobody, even a small player that is doing better, will not be able to beat you. Which is why all of these companies that we see are in power, like Google, let's say, with their chat interface, with their AI interface that they created. It wasn't very good. But I'll tell you what will happen. Perplexity will most likely not win. I want Perplexity to win, but it most likely will not. Because by the time everybody from Google comes up to Perplexity, Google just better product bana lega. Network effects usually always win above better product. So network effects is a big business problem that I think any of you, whether you build your own business, get into product, you should seriously think about. When they work, often become dominant winner, take all winners. Again, when they work, it means that network effects are going good. Switch nahi karega koi easily. So that's why marketplaces like that always win. Shumrato, switch. Companies with marketplace business models, I think. Yeah. India Mart. Italio, Airbnb, eBay. Self-explanatory, I guess. Can we go to the next one? Transactional. Transactional, I think Rishabh will take over right now.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
does anybody out here have any idea about what transactional business model is? Any idea? No.
Like
not yet.
something kind of UPI or maybe something like that. A
Yeah,
platform to
kind.
do some transactions easier.
Yeah. It's actually a platform to do transactions. So, as the name suggests, that transactional business model is a model in which basically facilitates transactions, right? And how exactly does it earn money? From every transaction that is made between a business and another business, or between a consumer and a business, it takes a small cut out of it. Right? It takes a small, say, a flat cut or a percentage of the transaction, and that's how it earns money. One main advantage of this is that it's a consistent source of revenue for the company, because once you choose a payment partner for your company, then it's pretty difficult to switch to another payment partner, right? I mean, you can have like, uh, can you, Somruto, can you switch to the next page, next slide? Yeah, you can have like payment or Stripe for you as your payment partner, and you can have making payments for you, but it's pretty difficult to switch. So it's a consistent source of revenue for that particular company, like Paymate or Stripe or whatever it is. But the main thing out here is the way they earn money. That is, they take a small cut out of the transaction, right? So yeah, and coming to an example, that is Stripe. What does Stripe do? It is also a similar platform which offers smooth transactions between a business and another business, or maybe from business and a customer. And what does it do? It makes the transactions very secure. That is, which is also a very important point in this business model. Security, digital security. That is, the money must not be, it must be very securely transferred from one account to the other. And also another thing related to security out here is that there is something called the Stripe radar, which basically uses machine language algorithms to detect potentially fraudulent users, which may be able to fraud you, and they inform it to the other user. So yeah, that's it basically. Similarly, payment is another platform in which there's a B2B transactions mainly, in which they allow the businesses to pay in cycles of like 30 or 60 days, which is common in businesses. And Coinbase is another platform which allows transactions in cryptocurrencies. So yeah, that's basically it. Over to Devamita.
Right. So now we've got subscription. Again, I think from past discussions, a lot of you know what subscription is. Just to reiterate, in subscription models, where businesses are trying to get recurring revenue. As we discussed, they want revenue that comes in regularly. Bar. Subscription is a good way of doing that. Sell subscriptions of anything, and what subscription mean is key. You're going to be paying a fee to that company again and again to use their product, right? So that's what a subscription model is. Now it can range across any sort of product. It can be across food. I mean, Zomato is trying to really get off Zomato Gold. It can be for. I'm watching a lot of F1 right now. So fan code is coming to my head. So if you want to watch sports, if you want to watch entertainment, you can pay subscription to Amazon Prime, Netflix. Subscription models are very inherent to our everyday use at this point. But yeah, this model allows you to leverage your customer relationships to create a steady stream of income. Customer relationships in the B2C sense, say Netflix has like over millions of customers, right? So when we talk about customer relationships, we're mostly talking about their branding and marketing. So the relationship that their customers have not with the people in the company, but the brand itself and what it represents. In B2B companies, the customer relationships might become more so with, somebody from their sales team for bigger clients. Key features, recurring revenue is the most valuable revenue. I mean, recurring revenue under subscription is mostly the only revenue. Usually sold to consumers, often paying monthly, could be yearly also. Monthly is just an example. Usually lower price points from a higher volume of customers, right? So subscriptions we mostly have in transactions which are sub, in our country would be sub 1,000 rupees, right? So when you're selling it at that low of a price point, for you to make the kind of money that VCs or investors expect startups to make, you need to have a much bigger customer base. Let's just go over, I think one of the other two will also take this over, but just fundamentally, there are mostly two types of businesses. Like mostly businesses are making money by two methods, right? And the two variables here are number of customers and the amount they're charging. So either you can have a lot of customers and charge thoda sa money, or you can have a small number of customers and charge a lot of money. So because in subscription models we are charging small amounts of money, you need higher customers. Growth driven by scalable self-serve. Yes, the Tankar, am I saying that?
Yeah. So
Yes.
I was going to ask that which generates more switch inertia, transactional models or subscriptions? Like,
Which generates more revenue, are you saying?
no. Switch inertia, like one
Switch
has to,
inertia.
like, yeah.
Acha, switch inertia, I think it will be much harder to switch from a transactional model compared to a subscription model, just based on the businesses we see usually, right? This is not a fair question, because then we'd have to get into what industries they operate in. But if you just look at the most mainstream companies, subscription mein zyadatar entertainment based businesses are there, right? Your streaming platforms, your food businesses, that's what we mostly think of when we think of subscription businesses. Whereas transactional businesses mein, you're dealing with your real money. People are a lot more careful about like their entire income. So when you're dealing with something that is more valuable to you, you are less likely to switch to something else. You will take more time to think and pick one thing, and once you've picked it, you will take more time to get away from it. Whereas in subscription, एक महीना Netflix देख लिया, दूसरे महीना Prime देख लूंगा, right? So
Right.
comparatively, if you look at the most mainstream businesses, subscription would do worse than transaction.
Okay.
And I think in cases of transactional business models, it's very hard to build the trust with the customers, right? Rather
Yes.
than in case of subscription based models.
Yes, exactly. That's why everybody has their own edge now. In subscription, it's easier to make somebody come to you, but it's harder to make them stay. Whereas in transaction, it's harder to make somebody, come to you, but it's much easier to make them stay. But yeah, I think we can go to the next slide now. Does anybody have any other questions? From anything so far, does not have to be subscription.
Yeah, I had one question. So in transactional business model, is Razorpay one of the examples?
Yes.
All right.
Razorpay is very similar to Stripe, their competitors, no?
Yeah, I mean, I've never used Stripe. I've only seen Razorpay.
Stripe is, Stripe India is not doing well. I'll just, from my understanding, from what I have seen, Stripe India is not going as hard because Stripe ka software is honestly much more reliable compared to Razorpay. But because Razorpay is an Indian company, Razorpay is putting all their effort in India. So I think if Stripe would put more effort, they would do better in India. But yeah, companies with subs. Does that answer your question, by the way?
Yeah.
Cool. So companies with subscription business model, I think Hotstar, Prime, Netflix are very easy to understand examples. CureFit, do you guys know what CureFit is?
As the name suggests, a fitness software.
It's not a fitness software, it's a fitness company, but they do have software, like elements to it all. But yeah, right, it's a fitness thing. So what CureFit is trying to do, CureFit did not start out as a subscription thing. Initially, CureFit would try to sell, passes to a lot of the workout programs they were hosting along with a lot of trainers. But then they realized again, recurring revenue is king. So now they've also bounced back into subscription business model. What the example of CureFit shows us is most consumer-based businesses now at one point or the other are going to wake up and realize recurring revenue to kitna easy hai. So let's just all get recurring revenue. So any company you see that started out as not subscription, that started out as usage based, na, eventually at least tries subscription based model once during their lifetime or just shifts over to it. Look at Book My Show. Book My Show में क्या था subscription? Book My Show में you would buy tickets for events, you would buy tickets for movies. But now Book My Show is trying to sell these filmy passes and all because it's much easier for them to make money that way, right? So subscription is what every mainstream like consumer startup wants to get into their system. Yeah, next slide. This is Shomrata is taking over it.
Okay, so I'll be talking about enterprise business model. So thinking about enterprise, first of all, think about the largest of the largest organizations. For example, you can think of Goldman Sachs, the largest banks. You can think of the largest airplane manufacturing company, which is like Boeing as well. And they serve very big institutions and government agencies as well. And they create, deliver, and capture value in that way. Most of the service is sold in contractual manner in a long-term fashion. So you can think of maybe a 1 year period, 2.5 year period, 5 year period, 10 year period, something like that. And the companies as I classified are immense with 5K plus employees. And since now you can think about Boeing as one of the examples. They serve companies such as maybe Emirates, Qatar Airways, and they sell the airplanes to them. And they are not selling the airplanes something like 10 this month, 20 next month. It's not fixed. It's more like they are selling maybe 50 aeroplanes to Emirates for the next 5 years. And it's contractual, and it's something which costs millions and millions of dollars. And so the deals are very high value, above 100K plus year. And as I said before, growth is driven by direct sales. And these are done with paid pilots or LOIs. Now, what are LOIs? LOIs are letter of intent, and it's basically something which tells the company that they want to do business with them. So, and the sales cycles are very long, as I said before, since the deals are contractual. So the sales cycle are also in that fashion. So 5 year period or 10 year period, something like that. And the growth is also lumpy. So what does lumpy growth mean? Since the sales are not very regular, the sales are irregular based on what the consumer demand is in the market. So today you can say Emirates has a requirement, or 2 years later Qatar may have a requirement based on what their needs are. So the needs are not very defined in a regular fashion. So the sales are not very regular. So the growth rate is also month-on-month growth rate cannot be justified in that sense as well. So I'll show some of the examples as well. So Goldman Sachs, as I mentioned before, Goldman Sachs or any large bank in that sense. And then, as I mentioned before, Boeing. And then there is Salesforce, one of the very large SaaS companies as well, which serve very large companies in a cloud-based fashion. And then there's Tally, which is an Indian company. As the name suggests, it's tallying in the sense of accountancy. So they offer accountancy software solutions to other companies. So now I'll hand over back to Deomita Di to explain usage-based business model.
Right. Did anybody have any questions about enterprise? No questions. Great. Well done, Shamrata. So usage-based. I think usage-based is right the opposite of what we discussed earlier. Subscription may you're taking bar money from the customer for providing a service. In usage-based, they use something, they pay for it, right? So your usage-based could be Zomato is trying to do subscription, but what mostly people do is they order an item, they pay Zomato money, and that's it. Zomato gets a cut from whatever transaction they help between the food seller and the customer, and that's it. That's what usage based is. Just remember, the opposite of subscription is usage. There isn't much to say here. This type of pricing can be beneficial for both customers and businesses, as it allows businesses to better align their costs with customer usage. Yeah, in the short term, usage based can be a great starter. When you're just starting your business, first of all, usage based means user acquisition becomes much easier. When somebody does not know your company, does not trust your company, they will not buy a subscription most likely. But usage based helps them, build that trust in you, build that faith in you, and build the habit of using you. Once they've gotten into a habit of using your thing, then they will pay for a subscription, right? So in the initial phases of a business, you need to have a usage based model. If you've just started a business and you directly jumped into subscription without either a free model where somebody can try your product or a usage based model, then you are not going to be getting many customers. Key features: charge per API request, number of records, data usage, etc., etc. These are examples of what can be the usage for different companies. Charge per API request. This is how OpenAI is making money in their B2B wala wo. So they let people, use their APIs, and based on how many tokens you're using, you pay them money. Number of records, data usage. Jiska phone ka data is not the fixed limit pay, and you still are paying for that data just based on how many MBs you're using, then you're again usage based but data ke upar se, right? Grow as your customers grow, right? So I think this is true for any business though, but yeah, it applies to usage based as well. Product and pricing scale to support tiny startups to large enterprises, right? This can be used for businesses of any size, but as I said, it's most beneficial when you're small, especially if your order value is very small, right? If your order value is big, as we just discussed in enterprise, then फिर तुम्हारा usage भी होगा, तो it's expected only. You cannot have subscription there. But for small order value, it's mostly the initial phases of the business where people do usage based. Don't confuse usage based revenue with recurring revenue, right? Obviously, they're two opposite things. Just to give you context, a lot of this content is from Y Combinator's Business Model 101. Now, this is apart from like what we're discussing, but I'll tell you why I use this, because this is the first resource I saw when I wanted to look at business models. Eventually, I realized that this is not an exhaustive list and this is not really categorizing things properly, and it's very haphazard. But I realized it's very execution based. So that's why we're deploying the YC model. Anyway, I think we can go to the next slide. Yeah, I think AWS may you're using their, API wala stuff. Freshworks, Twilio charges for data, by the way. We just talked about data usage. Zomato, self-explanatory. Anybody has any questions? Right, no questions. Let's go to the next slide. E-commerce. Right, so a lot of what we've talked about so far falls under e-commerce. And as we were discussing right in the beginning of B2, like right in the beginning of the session, B2C, B2B, C2C are some of its types. But can somebody tell me what e-commerce is? Because he used this term a lot, but there's no proper definition. And again, don't give me the definition that's written on the screen.
E-commerce is mostly buying stuff online.
That's what's written on the screen, but that's, I think, a good definition. But it's also selling, buying.
Yeah, true.
Right. So anyway, any kind of online business falls under e-commerce. It's one of the most widely known business models out there. So we'll, I think, jump directly into key features. Higher COGS equal to lower margins. Does anybody here know what COGS is?
Cost of goods
Get
sold.
cost of goods sold. Yes, perfectly. Higher COGS, lower margins. So the higher is the cost of your goods sold, the lower are your margins. I mean, it's the most basic business concept ever. It's true for every business model you think. But in e-commerce, it applies even more because e-commerce में leverages बाकी बहुत कम है. Marketing कर सकते हो तुम, उसके सिवा तुम्हारा बहुत leverage होता नहीं है. So you can only do price play mostly there. So for price play, you want your markup to be as small as possible. Matlab your profit margins, you want them to be as small as possible. So for that to be possible and for you to still make money, the cost of what you're building has to be low, which is why higher COGS becomes even more important in e-commerce compared to like your ekdam normal product businesses. Products often get commoditized. Can anybody explain what this means?
By commoditization, it means that a product has no like value, intrinsic value. The same product can be bought from anywhere else. So there is no speciality in a particular product.
Yes, exactly. So when we say products often get commoditized, we say that it loses its inherent value or its inherent uniqueness. On e-commerce platforms, whatever you can buy on Flipkart these days is often what you can buy on Amazon also. Right? There isn't an inherent difference a lot of times. Like there can be from time to time, but it's usually you can whatever you can find here, you can find there also. So what this does is because now we're at a stage where the ecosystem has matured and acquisition of products is not that difficult. Again, as we discussed in the last point, your cost of goods sold, whatever cost you acquired the thing is, becomes very important. And for the end user, whatever cost you're selling it at becomes very important. Because Amazon pay, let's say a book is 450 ka, Flipkart pay that book is 475 ka. The person is going to buy the same book anyway. So they're going to buy it at the 451 place. No. So because products are often commoditized, it is all price play in e-commerce often. Shriram, can you? Yes, thank you. Need to be excellent at user acquisition and operations unit economics. User acquisition, you need to be good at, whether that's through marketing, usually that's through marketing, and you have to have good unit economics. Does anybody here know what unit economics is?
I guess unit economics is the economics of one unit of the product. So like per unit, how much I am making, how much is the cost, and how much is the profit.
Right. Does anybody else have anything to add to that?
Like it also takes into account how much percentage of a single product is going into marketing and how much is going into other stuff, like everything expenditure related regarding the business.
Yes. So we're just taking per unit मेरा कितना वो हर चीज का component है. Let's say your वो is your product is 100 रुपए का. तो अगर 100 रुपए का product है, for this product, how much is going into marketing, how much is going into user acquisition, how much is actual cost of the product, how much are you spending for making that product travel. ये अभी जो Zepto, Blinkit, all of this is doing very well. A big component of what they're doing is, how is that item being taken from place to place. So travel and supply chain then becomes very important. So it's basically a breakdown of each product. Are you making money on each product? And if you are losing money, how do you get to that money making phase? So yeah, I think that's about e-commerce. Can we go to the next slide?
Actually, I had a question. Actually, so the question is that
Yes.
when we are talking about e-commerce businesses, we can see that recently, not even recently, from the previous years, people are reselling products.
Yes.
So does it fall under C2C models?
Why would you say that C2C?
Because when I'm actually buying a product, first of all, and even if I'm not buying a product, I'm taking the product and creating my own shop at Shopify,
Yes.
and then I'm selling that product, adding some extra prices to it.
Yes.
So the
But you're still a business owner at that point, no? You are still B.
but I'm just a mediator, right?
You are a mediator, but you're still, if you're doing it bar, then you're a business owner, no?
All right. That's the question. Okay, thank you.
Right. E-commerce, again, super popular companies,
I have
Flipkart.
a
Yes,
question.
tell me.
Yeah. So, as Putta said right now, that through Shopify, one is buying a product and selling it at a higher price. So, how is that person adding value?
They are not. They are adding value in the sense that they're acquiring it and putting it at a place where you can actually access it. So, Chobi, a lot of people, what they do now with Shopify stores, you will see Alibaba Pay, you maybe get these, I don't know, bracelets and all of those, I don't know, e-girl jewelry, e-boy jewelry. On Alibaba, you get in bulk, but तुम्हें bulk buy करना पड़ेगा. A consumer that only wants one piece cannot buy from Alibaba, right? So if you as a business owner bulk buy and then let people have the access to एक unit, then that's the value you're adding. You're making it possible for them to purchase it.
Okay, got it.
You're basically paying for ease of access and not for scouring through all places in the world and on the internet to get something. That's all.
Yeah, got it.
Yes. Right. So again, basic Flipkart, Myntra, Amazon, biggest e-commerce giants. Home Depot actually did not start as e-commerce. Home Depot, by the way, is a US company. It's a US furniture and home goods company. They had a physical store, but then they saw that people are usually coming. It's like IKEA, right? People are coming and they're like looking at things and they just go away. So then they shifted to the e-commerce model, and since then, Home Depot has mostly become e-commerce, I think. But yeah, that's e-commerce. Can we shift to the next slide? Advertising. Yes. Who makes money through advertising? What are the biggest companies in the world that are making money through advertising?
Google.
Yes.
Spotify.
Yes. I hate Spotify advertising, but yes. Who else?
YouTube.
Yes.
TerraVox also.
Who?
TerraVox.
Wow.
Okay.
Facebook.
Acha, tell me one Indian company that's making money through advertising.
Geo7.
Yeah, true. Jio7.
Yes, Geo7. Okay. Aditya has all music suggestions. He sticks to his personality. Okay. Right. I think everybody understands, right? Advertising you're basically you have to acquire people's attention and then you can sell that attention to businesses. That's all there is. Google is making money that way. YouTube is making money that way. Instagram is now making money that way. All of your social media platforms usually make money that way. They sell attention. It relies on attracting a large audience and leveraging user data to offer targeted advertising. Again, large audience acquire karo, utna zyada dam pe becho. Key features, typically consumer social products with huge scale. We just discussed more social media. Anything with a social nature, because that's where the most people have their eyeballs, right? Or sometimes their ears. But yeah, anything that's very social based works well. Although products like Spotify are not technically social based, but again, you have a lot of people's attention. So better than saying maybe consumer social products. If you were a non-fancy and basic person, then you would just say anything that can really hold a person's attention for a longer span of time. Customer is the advertiser, not the end user, right? This is a mistake that a lot of new social media products have made historically. They keep optimizing their product because they go critical mass. Do any of you know what critical mass is? Critical mass in terms of startups, in terms of social media.
I guess critical mass is the point at which the number of users is enough so that the new users can be acquired automatically or with less cost of acquisition, and profit can be generated through that.
Yes. By the way,
The
I'll just say
philosophy.
this. I am super impressed by Shubham today. He has really been doing his research on a lot of things. But yes, that is what critical mass is. Critical mass is the number of users beyond which point we think कि अगर इतना user हो गया ना, इसके बाद they will just keep on telling each other कि use करो, use करो, use करो, and the user number will increase organically. User acquisition then becomes a second grade priority because you've reached the point where now you don't have to worry about it, it'll take care of itself. Oftentimes when you're creating social products, na, people keep on asking ki, Acha, what is the critical mass number do you think? Is it 1,000 users? Is it 10,000 users? Is it 100,000 users? Because then you want to reach that number as soon as possible. If you don't within a certain period of time, your thing is never going to take off after that point. So critical mass tak, if your focus is for like businesses that are deploying the advertising model, critical mass tak tumhara focus should be your go, should be your end user, should be whoever is consuming whatever service or whatever content you are providing. Tab tak try to do whatever it is for the end user that is required. But after that critical mass point, na, if you just keep on optimizing the experience for the end user, you will never make money. For example, YouTube ने ads बहुत डाल दिए अब, right? So you could be like, अरे YouTube is doing something dumb. All of their users will leave them. But now YouTube is way beyond that critical user mass point, right? They have so many users and they are such a big monopoly in their space that people don't have elsewhere to go. So कुछ भी उनका experience खराब भी हो तो भी वो YouTube ही use करेंगे. So at that point now their goal should be to make money as much as possible. So now they'll put in as many ads in places where people will have to watch them, so that they can make the advertiser happy and make money off of them.
Use
Right.
Brave.
What?
Use Brave browser. Skip ads.
Yes, I do that. I think a lot of you also do that, but YouTube still has to make money. But
So
yeah,
I would like to
yes,
I would like to add a point to this, that customer is the advertiser. In this case, for example, if you take a photo from a phone, these days they use watermarks, right? So like when you share it to another person, if the photo clicks with the person, he will automatically recognize it with the model number or the brand of the particular photo being clicked.
yes.
So that is one way the customer is also the advertiser and is promoting their products.
When I said advertiser, I meant somebody who wants to advertise their products. Advertiser matlab not somebody who is advertising on your behalf. Did that make sense? For example,
Yeah.
Oppo का ad आ रहा है ना YouTube पे, तो Oppo is the advertiser in this case.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. By the way, this reminded me of a really nice example. Do you guys remember Snapchat with its dog filter?
Yeah. It used to be popular back in the day.
Yes,
Right.
back in the day, Snapchat with its dog filter was so popular. But what Snapchat was also doing that, na? Snapchat was leaving its mark off of everybody, and it was using its own platform to advertise itself. At one point, it had like, if you looked at Snapchat ka wo, although I did not really use it that much, but if you looked at Snapchat ka interface, na, finding the normal photo option became more difficult than finding a filter. All they had was filters, and that was starting to ruin the customer experience. But they didn't care because at that point, all they wanted to do was advertise themselves. They had reached the critical mass user point, at which point people were like, "Arey yaar, yahan pe, matlab, everybody from my school and college is here, so I have to be here no matter what the user experience is like." So in that case, advertiser for Snapchat was Snapchat itself, but that's a good example of how people are okay with inconveniencing their end user also, as long as it's generate value for them. Right. Users are the product being sold. As we discussed, attention is the commodity being sold. Registered users is a vanity metric. What does that mean? Anybody? Tawfiq, can you tell us what you think that means? You're the first person I can see on my screen.
I think like the examples, all the persons who are registered in the like account in the Spotify or like any streaming platform, or like they have the account, not using the skip part and using the product, like that can be used as a vanity metric.
Yeah, exactly. So registered users often with these platforms is a vanity metric, because what
I
you
think active user is the same thing of this.
no, active users is the complete opposite of just registered users. Like in the periphery of what we are discussing, registered users is anybody that's registered. What we care about is
Okay.
who are the active users, right? So active users, registered users is a vanity metric. When you're going to pitch yourself as a company, when you're going to pitch yourself to somebody who will say, oh, we have these many users, so we're doing super well. But inside the company, for you to be happy, you would want active users, because active users are the ones that are going to watch the ads and maybe click on the product pages. Registered users se kuch hota nahi hai. But yes, I think that is it on this one. Can we move to the next slide? The Times Group. They are the OG of advertising, I guess. All newspapers were where the advertising model started. But in today's digital landscape, we've got Meta and Google. And InShots is a good Indian example. I We did get Geo7, but InShots is also a good example. InShots, by the way, for anybody that does not know, is a news platform. Right? So that's how they make money. They show ads beech beech mein. Can we move to the next thing? Right. Hard tech bio moonshots. By the way, this is the model I was talking about initially. Initially, if you guys remember, I said, right, ki there are two models, which I think anybody our age should really look at if they want to start a company. What was the first one?
SaaS.
Cost.
Yes.
Yeah.
First one was SaaS. Second one is moonshots. So moonshots are basically things that would be crazy to do. If you told somebody your idea, they'd be like, कि इसको बिठाओ, इसको पानी पिलाओ, इसका ज़्यादा चल रहा है आजकल. Moonshots are things which, if you told somebody, they might somebody who's not from the startup ecosystem, that does not understand everything super in this ecosystem super well, they think you're delusional. Moonshots are one thing where the mom test fails. You know, a lot of people will tell you कि like if you want to test कि the thing you're selling या तुम्हारा business model या business idea is good or not, ये test करने के लिए try to explain it in the most basic sense to your family members, to your like parents. Right? In moonshots, this whole thing fails, because often with moonshots you cannot explain it to anybody, let alone your parents. Because moonshots are things that at that time, in the present time, they might seem very hard to do, but they're the future. They're what really progresses humanity ahead. Now, why do I say ki at our age this is the way to go? Because first of all, moonshots take time, right? You cannot go to Mars in 1 day or 1 year. I'm not sure. If you had started earlier, then it wouldn't even have been a decade. Moonshots take a ton of time. So the good thing about being young is you will have a lot of time. Even if it takes your business a decade to launch, by the time it will take off, you'll still just be 30. Right? So moonshots are good for young people. Another thing is, हमने अभी तक जितना business models discuss किया, we were discussing about recurring revenue, and we were discussing about एक बार network effect में one business gets big, it stays big. As a student, you have no access to money. Even as an early professional, you will have access to very, very little money. और तुम्हें शुरू में ही फंडिंग में बहुत बड़ा बड़ा अमाउंट नहीं मिल जाता है. It takes time. You have to show growth, and it's a painful process. And in startups, I think if you want crazy growth, if you want to be like Steve Jobs level or billionaire level ka growth you want in life, then the way to go is moonshots. Because moonshots mein you're not competing with basically anyone. you're competing with technological advancements, right? So you've got the power of research and you've got your youth on your side. So I think
But
moonshots
you
are a
need the
great
capital too, right?
what?
But one needs the capital too.
Yeah, and for that, see, that's the good thing. If you were doing this back in the day, if this was 20, 30 years ago, then I'd be like, as a student, never try moonshots. Because back then you would have no access to places to research or labs with enough equipment or any of that stuff. But that's a good thing about being a student. You, especially a student in STEM, you have access to a lot of stuff through your educational institutions only. So it's easier for you to start. And now too, there are a lot of grants in the system as well. So yeah, the kind of capital you need access to, which is research capital, it's much easier to have access to that as a student than a early career professional. But just to summarize what moonshots mean again, based on what is written here, uh, they focus on developing groundbreaking high-risk technologies with significant long-term potential. Basically, things that are going to change the world. Can you tell me of one moonshot idea in today's time?
Solving
Um,
climatic
I,
problem.
I couldn't catch you. Can you repeat yourself?
Solving climatic problems.
Climate change. Yeah, fixing climate change.
Hydrogen
SpaceX.
fuel car.
What did you say, Bendik?
Hydrogen fuel car.
Yes, hydrogen fuel cars.
Then SpaceX,
Also,
renewable rockets.
SpaceX, yeah.
Stripe was a moonshot at some time. Like there was no global payment aggregator like Stripe, and this payment aggregator software is very difficult to make, and no one was making it. So Stripe did the hard thing, and they made this software. So I guess they are a moonshot because they did this huge stuff.
Right. I don't think I would classify Stripe as a moonshot. I agree with you that they did something for which the ecosystem did not exist, but they were operating at a time where fintechs were already a thing. But I mean, in today's time, for sure, Stripe is not a moonshot, but maybe we could say back when they started, it could have been classified as a moonshot. But usually that's not what we think about. When we think about moonshots, we're thinking thoda another step crazier for something there is no corollary only, basically. But I think we got some answers in space tech. We got climate change. Did we get something else?
Is achieving AGI a moonshot?
Yes. I mean, it definitely was 5 years ago. Now I think we're getting closer to it,
Yes.
but we're
Now
getting
it feels
closer to
more
it mostly at
achievable.
the surface level.
Technically, PayPal was also moonshot because there was no wallet service when PayPal was introduced.
What company did you name?
PayPal.
PayPal, yes. Yes. Back when it started, yes. PayPal, when it started, there was nothing as such. When PayPal started, they were trying to do something Bitcoiny. Like they were on a whole different tangent and they ended up creating something very different, but it was a moonshot for that time. But give me some more ideas. So what do you think is moonshot for today? Because these are very escapey answers. We know space tech now, we know hydrogen fuel now. People are talking about it. Give me something that nobody's talking about. I don't know.
Okay, so probably the perfect AI that can predict a lot of different things, right?
Neuralink can be one of them.
Neuralink is a whole company. They are doing it. Give me something that's nobody's doing. That is true moonshot. One of you, I cannot remember who, gave me a really good answer to this during interviews. He said we should have robots wrestle each other and create a whole entertainment industry out of it. That sounds ridiculous, I know, but it's not impossible. You could do that. Robots are a lot more efficient and they would have a good fight. So I actually
Iron Man without Tony Stark.
Huh?
Iron Man without Tony Stark.
Yes.
Iron Man without Tony Stark.
Yes. I actually really love that idea. But give me some more moonshot ideas.
Well, in that case, robots need to learn how to trash talk as well. Because without the trash talk, the fight is meaningless, I think.
We are talking about boxing, not MMA.
Oh, Well, it
And
can
you
be.
see they trash talk, don't they?
I think like nanotechnology can be a moonshot idea. Robots are getting smaller and smaller, so are silicon chips. So people have a lot of diseases in their bodies, and this nanotechnology can be used as really small robots which can go into the body and eradicate diseases before they take hold of the body, which can be a lifesaver for many people, and it would significantly reduce hospital costs and pharmaceutical costs for people. Might be an idea.
I love that idea. I mean, it's super hard to do. I don't know how somebody would
Not
do
a
it.
bad
But
idea.
a great that's a great thought to have. Love that.
Basically,
But
some of these are
the
still being
UAC,
executed, right?
is
For example,
already
if you
working in it on that idea.
I couldn't
UAC,
hear either of Pratyay or Aditya.
what I'm trying to say is USA is already working on that idea that Shubham talked about.
Yeah, I have heard of something similar, but I've never heard somebody give that answer. So I really like the answer. What was Aditya saying?
So basically, in medical field, some of these ideas are still in use. For example, if you like, there's some sort of operation, if you have mucus stuck in your like bloodline or something, and they send some robotic shit down there, and it basically rips through the blockage and makes it so that blood flows again.
Yes, when you talk
So
about operations like endoscopy and colonoscopy, things
yeah,
are
yeah.
done like that.
Yeah, makes sense. See, when
One
you
more
really
thing.
think about it, anything that sounds crazy, you could actually do. It's not that far fetched.
Yeah, one more thing could be immortalizing humans. I not immortalizing. I mean, yeah, kind of that. I mean, shift transferring the
Immortalizing.
immortalizing. Sorry.
Immortalizing मतलब morals ले लेना
Yeah,
सारा.
yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
कि सबको
But
बर्बाद कर दो.
but the thing is to transfer the brain into a robot so that that person lives forever.
I
So
think
one
that
basic one could be like the Transformers thing. Like you develop a robot which can, I mean, you can control it as well as you can use it as a car or underwater something.
Yeah, I am also a Transformers fan, bhai.
Yeah, I think robots को control करना था is already happening. Now turning them into a car is the next step. You also have to think if that's actually useful, because I'd be freaked out if I had a robot and it turned into a vehicle and I had to ride it. I would feel so bad.
This is science fiction 101.
Yes, but you know, people think this sounds crazy, but that's the great thing about being young. You can take things like this seriously and you can make it happen. So I think this is a great opportunity to take on when you're young. I will tell you what my moonshot is. And I'm actually really serious about my moonshot. It has become sort of a sublime obsession. But my moonshot is I want to understand animal language. I want to understand what animals are talking about. Not in terms of cues. Like, I don't want to understand when a dog is happy or like when a cat is sad. I want to understand the actual language. And you think this is what is this? But people have researchers are actually working on this. There's this thing called is the species project. It's some species project, and they're doing a lot of work on this. And they're studying sperm whales because have communication patterns. Getting close to decoding animal language, and I think that's fascinating. It's actually something I want to work on. So I might in like a couple of months just ask a few of you if you want to like join me on this. But yeah, that's a moonshot I'm interested in, and I think all your there's something crazy in your life, even if you never do anything with it, there's something crazy in your life that like drives you and you're really curious about, because I think it gives your life a meaning beyond the mundane.
But Didi, I have one question to ask.
Hmm.
What value does this research or decoding the animal language add to our society?
There is so much you could do. See, historically, animals are better at understanding environmental cues than us. Na? You've heard of things like birds, for example, earthquake aane wala hota hai.
Dogs and animals. Yeah.
And there are a lot of other phenomena. So if you could understand what they're saying, you could understand nature and the world a lot better.
But we already have forecasts for that, right?
Are they accurate? Are we being able to save people?
Like if a dog barks that earthquake is about to happen, that will be for 5 minutes, maybe.
No, birds. That's what I'm saying. It's not just about dogs. Birds do it. If in a cycle, weather cycle, I can't remember the name of the bird. You see, weather cycle maybe na. Agar there's going to some natural calamities want to strike, तो जो migratory birds होती है ना, वो migrate करके उस zone में ही नहीं जाती है. There have been multiple instances of this. And in any way, when you're cohabiting on the earth with so many other species, if you could understand them, I think it would make us a lot more conscious of what we were doing to the earth. And if you can see what is happening to the earth, we would know ki like, I don't think we're doing all of the right things anyway. So I think there's value to that. But it's mostly like a curiosity thing for me. I'm not really thinking about value there.
Got it. But to be honest, all the moonshots which we talked about right now are less likely to get funding from any investors or VCs.
That's actually not true. The VC I work for loves moonshot ideas, and a lot of deep tech VCs love moonshot ideas. Y Combinator at least used to be a very big fan of moonshot. These days, I don't know, they seem to only care about AI. But a lot of VCs would fund you. Khosla Ventures, we were talking about Khosla some time ago, right? He only funds deep tech. He's very bullish on deep tech. So it might seem that way, it's not that way. Abhi tum dekh lo na, Tesla, just because Elon Musk is famous and like EV has become a concept now, we think Tesla is very mainstream. Back when they started Tesla, EVs were not mainstream. Self-driving cars were not mainstream. People would be like, "Ye kya bol raha hai? Sirf thok dega gaadi." So,
like my dad always says, all the VCs are more interested in, investing on something which is like old wine in the new bottle. In this manner.
Could you repeat what you said?
My dad always says that VCs are interested to invest in something which has a model idea, like putting the old wine in a new bottle, like basically repackaging the thing in some sense, and you present it in a different way.
Right. I wouldn't completely disagree to it. A lot of VCs do that, but like that's not the entire ecosystem, and that's why we've had so many good companies over the years also now. Because with moonshots, at some point you have to get funding. You cannot do it without money. But yeah, I think we spent a lot of time on this, so we'll move on. Key features often takes years to go live because of technical or regulatory risk. Government, for example, for self-driving cars only, governments would not allow to drive it on roads. Technical, it's so far off, it'll take you a lot of years to figure out the entire mechanics of it all. Impressive technical milestones or experimental data can de-risk. So even if you don't get the entire product, if you start achieving step-by-step milestones or get data that can, prove whatever you're saying could be right, then it can help you gain funding or help you gain, consumer approval, so to say. Revenue is often years away, so signed LOIs are usually the best way to show customer interest. So revenue is years away because you might have not finished your products. But signed LOIs are letter of intent. For example, for a lot of these moonshot ideas, you will see deals being made even when there isn't a product. For example, a lot of tech companies space tech companies are trying to build out their own spaceships and their own like space equipment, right? Even when they don't have the equipment, they often like sign LOIs with companies just so to say like, when we finish this, you will buy it. But yeah, that's it. Can we move on to the next slide? Did anybody hear about the Agnikul ka wo space launch?
Yes. First private company to build missile in India.
Yeah.
Yes. So Agnikul Cosmos is a moonshot. Cruise is a self-driving company, by the way, self-driving car company. Pfizer and Serum are just pharma companies. Now, why do they fall under hard tech bio moonshots? They are invested in the hard tech industry and the moonshot industry because they're constantly working on solutions to bio problems that people think is years away. And because they constantly do that, we have cures to things.
The one big example can be AstraZeneca, like the company which developed COVID vaccines worldwide.
It's hard tech for sure. It's not moonshot though. Because moonshot
Alright.
होता तो मतलब problem already था ना, they found a solution to it. So it's hard tech for sure.
Okay, got it.
Right. I think we can move to the next model. Orko, you take over.
Thank you. So hello everyone. Am I audible and visible?
Yes.
Yeah, boss.
Okay, thank you. Now, guys, have you any ideas about product-based business model? Anyone?
Product-based business models includes the companies which sells product directly to either businesses or consumers.
Yeah, right. Now, product-based business model is something like when a company sells its own finished products to its customers and makes money from it. So it's the simple model. Simple model means bread and butter model, the simplest model which we can understand it, and it's like just earning profit by selling out items. So how do they do that? Now they do that by attracting large number of customers through marketing, and they also drive sales by creating a positive shopping experience. Now, what are the key features of this model? Number one, retailers should have main focus on quality and selection of products. By this term, I mean to say, like for an example, Cadbury, everyone's favorite, right? Cadbury has wide range of products like this and that Cadbury. Okay, and next one is competitive pricing. Now, guys, do you know about competitive pricing?
Competitive
Anyone?
pricing means pricing your products lower than the competitors so that your product is preferred more than the competitors.
Yeah, right, right. Like for an example, if I take two companies, Lay's and Uncle Chips. So suppose Lay's sells out an item at a cost of rupees 15. Suppose, okay, and whereas Uncle Chips sells the similar kind of product at rupees 10. So here Uncle Chips has outsmarted Lay's. So this is competitive pricing. Now these retailers should also focus on amazing overall. Yes, Om. Have you any questions?
Yeah, though it has seen statistically that Lay's has more consumers than Uncle Chips have, just due to different flavors and better tastes.
Sorry, I didn't get you.
Like you said that Uncle Chips has outsmarted Lay's when it comes to pricing, but Lay's has better consumer base just because they
Yeah,
have
yeah.
different
I, I,
flavors and tastes.
I was
Because of
just
better
giving an example.
marketing, right?
Just an example. Okay. So next one is retailers. Now the next point is retailers should also identify ideal and potential customers so that they can tailor uh, product offerings and uh, market strategy out from it. And they should also maintain the cost to attain profitability from it. Uh, Now you can see over here, there are some also key features like managing stock is crucial in this model. 4 P's of marketing, product, price, place, and promotion are highly relevant. Now the important part is that how does this model generate its income or revenue? Anyone?
A classic example of product-based companies would be car companies. Car source the raw materials, manufacture the car, place their stores in high-income areas, and sell their cars. So this is the generate revenue selling their products.
Okay. Like they just do that by selling out items at a markup from wholesale cost, providing some additional features or additional experiences, and also for or a subscription model. So anyone knows about markup? What do you mean by markup here?
The price you charge above the cost price so that you can make a profit.
Okay, right. Good one. Okay, next slide. Sumruto. Now, these are some of the companies that are based on product retail business model. Uncle Chips, Lay's, Cadbury, L'Oreal. Okay, that's it. That's from my side. Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Right. I
Any
think I
questions?
was.
Anyone?
One question. Actually, it's a mix of product and the service based question. Okay, so Deomiladi, please, you can also answer with Orko. So my question is, before the Geo comes into the picture of Indian market, there was a clear differentiation between a product and a service-based company. So in that case, after the coming of like internet boom in India, the many digital products come into the picture. So after that, differentiating a product-based company or a service-based company, that become very difficult. Like anyone who has a company, run their company, providing a course on DSA. That is a product, of course. The course is a product, but also helping the doubt clears. Okay, one to one. That is a service. So in the digitization, after the Geo came into the picture and the digitization happens very abruptly, so the differentiation becomes very low. So there is a thin line. So how can you identify that, and how this can be like beneficial for a company or a consumer or anything? So I was thinking about large, like 2 to 3 months back.
Right.
Actually, I also had a kind of a similar question. Actually, there are people who are selling one-time courses that you pay the money, take the course for 2 months, and that's it. So they have created a slide and put videos in the slide and selling it as a course. Right. So, what kind of business model does it fall under?
Right. It would be a product-based model only. Like, based on your question, I think first of all there was a doubt between what consists, like what do we call a product now, since there are also digital products. Under this discussion, the discussion that Orko just had regarding product-based businesses, we're mostly talking about physical products. But rightly pointed out, there are now digital products also. So both of them would fall under the product model, right? So I don't see a distinction that you necessarily have to make, because both of those things are extremely separate. But yeah, there can be digital products and physical products. Are you looking for like elaboration on either of those in a certain degree? Because I don't understand the question here. Yes, there are different kinds of products. What is the question exactly?
Like Zerodha. Zerodha is providing the trading facility, that is a service-based
Yes.
model. And Zerodha just launched like mutual fund. Okay. So the mutual fund is a product or a service?
Mutual fund is a service. Mutual fund is not a product. See, financial sector we are mostly talking about startups. We are talking about financial sector we would mostly talk about service startups. Financial products fall under a whole different thing. But even if we go into it, mutual funds are not products, they are services. Because what does a mutual fund manager mostly do? They do not create stocks, they are not creating anything new. They are providing you the service of collating a bunch of stocks and letting you invest by through SIPs or one-time investments या जो भी basically token में invest करने दे रहे हैं ना तुम्हें. They're providing you with a service. They are not providing with any sort of a product. Does that make sense?
But what about the index funds? Like mutual fund, there are index funds like Nifty Top 50 index funds. There is very little amount of research for the mutual fund manager. So is that a product or like service?
I don't understand how that distinction would make it any different. Because as I said, what is तुम्हारा जो म्यूचुअल फंड बना रहा है वो कर क्या रहा है? At the end of the day, वो their knowledge या जो भी stocks collate कर रहा है and they are giving you an opportunity कि तुम जितना पैसा invest करना चाहते हो उतने में मैं तुम्हें इसका ऐसा breakup दिला दूंगा. Right? So they're giving you a service. Are they giving you like a product in exchange? They are not giving you a product in exchange, right? because stocks तो तुम कहीं और से भी खरीद सकते हो. They are letting you buy it at a token. They are providing you that service.
So how do we classify small case in this thing? Like we have heard of small case.
How do we classify क्या?
Small case. They are neither mutual
Small
funds in
case.
that case.
Yes, that was I was talking about.
Small case would be a very platform, no? Wait, let me think of what business model it fall under. Small case is not e-commerce. Small case is
Premium.
SaaS. Small case is SaaS. Small case के अंडर कभी नोटिस
What
किया? Small
exactly
case के
SaaS?
अंडर there are fund managers listed. देखो small case small case के अंडर small case has its own bundles that it sells. Small case also lists bundles created by other companies, as far as I know. So if you look at just small case as a platform, it's a SaaS company. But if you look at their like वो bundles में, then they're also providing some financial services. A company can be a mix of multiple things, but if you just look at that platform, they're a SaaS company.
Okay.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Like this, there's still something undiscovered. Like it's not a kind of mutual fund which provides service exactly, because they give you the whole portfolio, and that's in that case, it is also a product.
We give you the whole portfolio. I don't understand.
Like the composition of the portfolio you invest in, so that is yours. Then
Oh,
then
but then that's also a service. ना वो भी product कैसे? Composition. They're giving you the opportunity to build the composition of a portfolio, right? So they're giving you a service कि तुम अपना ऐसा choose कर सकते हो. They are not selling you any commodity as such. They don't own the commodity they're selling you.
got it.
Right. Any other questions? Anybody wants to add anything else? Right. I will take that as a no. Right. I think that was business model 101. I hope post this session you do some more research and understand everything we talked about thoda or in depth. I would really have preferred if we could have discussed network effects and defensibilities, but it has already been over 1.5 hours, so I will not tire everybody out anymore. We might take that at a later session, or you guys can let me know if you would like to read up about it a little bit, and I can send you an article that I really like. But yeah, that was business models 101. Did everybody learn something today?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
Yes.
to learn about
Yes.
different models.
Yes.
Okay. As long as you're learning something, that's good enough. Cool then. I think have a good Sunday. We're done here for today. Thanks for joining. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.
My,
Bye.